Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show. John Henry Soto here with you as always. It is Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, and it's 7 a.m. Central here in Nashville, Tennessee. This is a live morning space for artists, filmmakers, musicians, and creators who are navigating the real world of making art. On this show, we talk about positivity, but not the fluffy kind. We talk about what actually stops artists from moving forward, the struggles we all face, and how to move through them with clarity and purpose. We'll also highlight good things happening in the industry, share ideas, suggestions, and practical advice, and most importantly, have honest conversations. This is a live show, so if you're here, feel free to ask questions or join in. This is a place to reset, get grounded, and start the day moving forward as an artist. And welcome in, everyone. Hope you're all doing well out there. As I mentioned, it is we are in Nashville, Tennessee, and it is cold today. It's like 19 degrees here. And I know I shouldn't complain because I know that the East Coast is getting some heavy, heavy snow right now. Like feet, like where I'll be in trouble because I'm short. So I would be in some serious, serious trouble walking around New York City and the East Coast right now. But I hope they're all doing well up there, sending prayers to everybody up there. And today we're going to be talking, it's an interesting subject today. I don't, you know, we talk a lot about building systems. We talk a lot about, taking control of your career, taking control of your, having the mindset, basically, you know. Um, so this is not working again. Sorry, folks. A little technical difficulty here. I don't know why this is happening, but it's only happening with one platform. We'll see if it hangs out. If not, I won't be on LinkedIn this morning. I'll have to do a. If you're watching this on LinkedIn and it cuts out, I apologize. I will post the whole thing there when it is completed. For some reason, LinkedIn is crapping out. As I always say, this is a live show. Anything could happen. All right. So in 2026, the idea of Hollywood isn't a zip code. It's a mindset. And over a century, Hollywood has symbolized access, um, access to studios, soundstage, sound stages, executives, and distribution. But today, the tools that once lived behind studio gates are sitting right at your desk. High quality cameras, editing software, global streaming platforms, and direct audience access. You don't have to move to Los Angeles to build a creative empire anymore. The real question isn't, can I build my own Hollywood? It's, am I willing to build an ecosystem where I am? And this has always been the fascinating conversation that people have about it, because we all want to work, right? We all want to, be with the big boys, so to speak, right? But somebody's got to build it where they are. We have in tremendous, I mean, look what Tyler Perry did in Atlanta, right? I mean, he basically owns Atlanta. He is Hollywood in Atlanta, you know. And there's others right now. New Jersey is opening up big studios. Now, these aren't necessarily Hollywood. These are just sound stages and just big lots, and with a lot of sound stages and things like that. So, but to the same degree, they're taking control of the environment where they don't necessarily have to now fly over to Los Angeles to do a project, especially because also Los Angeles right now is California in general. It's just very expensive. The taxes are the highest in the country, and for film, the incentives are very low. They just had an incentive of I think it was 750 million, I believe, for an incentive for a film, and or is it 750? No, 750,000. What am I talking? I keep saying million. Why would it be million if they had a million? 750 million dollars. No, 750,000. Not even $1 million. An incentive, where other places that are nothing like that are have much higher incentives. I mean, if you look at some of the thing, it says this person says New Yorkers fed up big time. Yeah, I understand. It's getting crazy out there. Yeah, it's very cold out there. But filmmaking in New York is actually they had, I don't know what exactly it is right now because they're going through a little bit of a situation right now with their administration. But um, financially, if you wanted to shoot a film in New York, it was actually one of the better places to shoot. This is why a lot of shows shot in New York. I think some of the cities, um, the more metropolitan cities understand the value of having New York City as the backdrop for a project, because it's sort of like a marketing for the city. And when you have New York City as your backdrop, it's almost like you have another character. So Law and Order and SVU, um, SVU, is it SUV? No, SCVU. All those TV shows, had a lot of incentives to shoot there, so they did shoot there. In California, it's very expensive. As a matter of fact, I've heard this over and over by a lot of different producers and filmmakers that it's actually cheaper. Get this. It's actually cheaper to fly all your actors, the crew, all the equipment on a plane to uh, to another country, like to Australia or down to Belarus, or somewhere out of the country. It's cheaper to do that than to shoot just one day in California, just to stay there. It's actually cheaper to shoot it somewhere else, to fly the whole thing. And that's crazy when you think about it, because they have all the stuff in there. It's like crazy. Oh my God, I can't take your whiny voice, Melanie says. I get people that don't like my whiny voice. Am I whiny? I didn't know I was whiny. Melanie is so important. Anyway, want to thank you all for tuning in, and those of you who actually do tune in, which I appreciate it. So imagine just having a film production company, and you have to fly everyone all across, out of a country just to shoot your project. And that's crazy. But that's what's happened with Hollywood. And so, do people want to actually take the work and apply the effort that it takes to build a studio where you are? You see what I'm saying? You got to be where you are. That's what takes a lot of work. The first thing you have to do is you have to build an infrastructure, right? That means that you have to create reliable production workflows. You have to have a dedicated filming space. You have to have consistent branding, a content calendar, and a small but serious team, even if it's just two or three hungry creatives. Hollywood wasn't built on talent alone, it was built on systems. Develop repeatable processes for writing, shooting, editing, marketing, and monetizing. When you turn creativity into a machine, you stop hoping for opportunities and start manufacturing them. And that's where, and that's been going on for quite some time now, right? Where we're in an age where we can shoot our own projects, we can edit our own projects. We don't necessarily need to go and have to join a team. We can literally shoot our own projects if we wanted to. You can do it with your phone. You can actually, there's so much great software. As a matter of fact, one free software for your phone, if you have a good, up to date phone, is the Black Magic software. You can shoot. They have cameras. They have different camera lenses. They have editing within the platform itself. You can download it to a high quality. It's just with your phone. You can shoot an actual pretty decent looking project that you can show people, just to show them what your talents are. It's not going to be a Hollywood cameras, and they're not going to be, but it's really good quality if you want to tell a story. Remember, we're in the age of storytelling, right? Where storytelling is really the main thing right now. It's not just the it's not just the equipment. It's not the actors. It's really storytelling, and that's what it's coming down to right now. Branding companies are using storytellers to brand their products. This is becoming a really big thing. If you're a filmmaker out there, start getting ready, because you might be hired by a brand. You might be hired by Haynes, by by Kellogg's, by just a brand, and be in house as a storyteller to shoot all their content. They understand the value of social media, and actually storytelling. Verticals are big now. There's a lot of things you can do. So there you go. Second, build your audience before you build your masterpiece. The old model was gatekeepers first, audience later. The new model is audience first, gatekeepers optional. I'm sure they don't like to hear that. You can use social platforms, email lists, uh, live streams, podcasts, whatever fits your voice, and show up consistently. When you control attention, you control leverage. An audience in Kansas, Florida, or Ohio is just as powerful as one in Beverly Hills if it's engaged and it's loyal. That's what you need, right? You need a loyal following, right? And the country is filled with cities and states that have loyal followings. So we've had this idea that you can only shoot in California. If you want to be an actor, you either go to California, or if you want to be a theater, you go to New York, right? And film, but mainly you can do both in New York. California is known for film. That is the Hollywood is Hollywood. Now, by me doing this show today, I don't want anybody to think that I want Hollywood to go away. I love Hollywood. Hollywood is it's a nostalgic, it's the history of our industry. It's where some of the greatest films ever made were made, and still being made, at a slower pace and not as many as they used to be, but it's still there. I know a lot of the studio lots are vacant, but I want them to succeed. I want them to be filled. I want people to come back to Hollywood and make films, and I want the administration to make livable, just make it more livable for artists and for the studios to make their projects there. I think it'd be wonderful to fly your whole crew, instead of going out of the country, fly them all the way to Los Angeles, because the incentives are so great, and they really care about their Hollywood. I mean, it's an important part of California. People think of California, they think of Hollywood. They think of beaches, they think of beautiful sunset. Sun all the time. So I want it to succeed. This is not a knock on it. What I'm saying is that if you where you are right now, you can build your own little Hollywood, and who knows, it may not be little. It may actually turn into something like Tyler Perry did, created a tremendous empire down there, right? I mean, he's a powerhouse. If you ever get a chance to listen to his story, you'd be very, very impressed with him. He's had some tremendous challenges in his life that he had to overcome to be where he is, and it's really inspiring when you hear it. The third thing that you can do is to collaborate locally and think globally. This is a very powerful thing that I remember Pete Seeger saying. Pete Seeger originally from the Weavers. He was sort of a political folk singer back in the days before Bob Dylan, actually, believe it or not. And you go and and he said something very interesting. He said, think, he said, act locally, but think globally, right? So act locally, work around your town, do things locally. And he was talking about fixing your community and cleaning it up and cleaning the waters and the rivers and stuff. Um, and if you do that, but you think globally, like your actions are actually moving further outside of where you are, is very important. And when you're talking about film, you collaborate locally, but think globally. See, so you get people that are in your community, and people that are just as passionate, just as hungry, and love the industry, and are really willing to work really hard. Now, these individuals are not really that easy to find, believe it or not. They're out there, but you gotta, it's a numbers game. You got to meet a lot of people in order to really get get them, and that's just the way it is, but it's a numbers game. Every city has hidden talent, actors, musicians, editors, designers who are willing for someone who are waiting for someone to organize the energy, create the community hub, host meetups, produce short films, launch a web series. And the fourth thing is diversify revenue streams so you're not dependent on one platform. You get merchandise, subscriptions, brand deals, digital products. And the fifth thing is think long term branding. Build intellectual properties, not just content. You have to own it, own your stories, protect your ideas, nurture your voice in 2026. You won't be chasing Hollywood. Outgrow the need for it. Outgrow the need for it and build something so strong where you are that the industry has to pay attention. So you're building something that's so strong where you currently are that the industry has to pay attention. You see. Good morning, Kimberly. Kimberly says good morning. All right, welcome in. Hopefully, I already had the stream drop out on me once. So I'm hoping that it hangs tight. I don't know what's happening with LinkedIn, but I will be sending an email. So hope you're all doing well out there. So, if you act locally and think globally in building a network of creators that are willing to work hard to put something together that is quality, that is, uh, you know, has a powerful message behind it, and you're willing to put in the hours, in the beginning especially. Like I said, you need to build that infrastructure first. You need to meet people that are willing to help you build that. That means that you need reliable production workflows. You need a dedicated film space. You need consistent branding, you need a calendar. A very important thing to have is a calendar. Where are you going to be? What's the next thing? And then stopping and then going on to the next thing. Because if you're building something like you want to build Hollywood, a small Hollywood in your community, then you have to be organized. That's the key factor. There's no way around it, unfortunately. I hate to break it to y'all, but there's no way around it. And if you look at people that have done it, Tyler Perry, and there's studios right now popping up in New Jersey. As a matter of fact, there's one in Bayonne, New Jersey, that's being built right now. I used to live in Bayonne actually for about 9, 10 years. And I moved from there. I moved here to Nashville, and now they're building a huge studio in there. So I might have to move back. Who knows? But they have this tremendous space that's a wonderful film studio. Which, funny enough, I remember driving by and looking at this huge space, and I remember having conversations with people. This would be a great film studio because it was sort of built where it had already gates to get into it, and it was this huge, giant, lot of acres back there in Bayonne, down the south side of Bayonne, and it was just a great space. So they're doing it. Here in Nashville, we have a lot of film happening as well. A lot of smaller houses that are putting up big projects. Here right now is Nashville 911 is a big show that's being shot here. So you see them all over the place. And there's a lot of short films being shot here and a lot of independent films being shot here. We have a pretty good system here, incentives. It's easy to shoot in Nashville, not as crazy as other places. The regulations and some of the forms that you have to fill are not as extensive as somewhere like Los Angeles, where it's all a lot of red tape to get things done. So it does become much more easier to put projects together. So these are some of the things, that you have to do. The second one that I mentioned is like, build your audience. It used to be that you working on, and I know that artists and are going to not like this. They're going to rebel against the idea that they're going to have to build an audience first before they build their masterpiece. Now, I'm a little bit torn with this one as well, because I think you have to really work on what you're building. You know, your masterpiece, your storytelling skills have to be really, really on point in order to really communicate to an audience and to get people engaged. But when you have engagement first, and you build an audience and you give them just, little tidbits of what you're working on, and they're interested in what you're working on, and it's good quality, you're going to build an audience. And I think that's part of the challenge for some artists, all artists, even musicians. A musician wants to play their music. They don't want to go out there and have to try to find a venue to let them to play, let them play their music. So they go get a manager, then they get a booking agent, and that's why all those jobs exist. If the artist could just go out on their own and just get their art seen, they wouldn't need a manager and an agent and a booking talent agent, and uh, all the, and for film, you just go out and you find the location where you want to shoot and you shoot, right? But no, you need a scouting person, you need you need a lot of different things that come into play when you're trying to create. But use them. You have to. It's This is about, and so what I said in the beginning, is so true, that Hollywood is not just a zip code, it's not a place, it's a mindset. There's a mindset there, and that's why it was so successful. They had the mindset that they had to build something that was a system. That's why they call it the Hollywood system, right? And it was a system. See, back in the days with these Hollywood studios, you would sign a contract to MGM, you would sign a contract to Paramount, and once you sign these contracts, you are now property of these studios. So meaning, if you're signed with Paramount, you can't go and shoot a film for MGM because you're signed with Paramount, and that's it, right? Now, the thing that Paramount did, and again, there's things that Hollywood, the dark side of Hollywood, I'm not going to talk about that right now. I'm going to talk about the system that was cranking out films back in the 40s and 50s, right? Um, but what they would do is they would take an artist and they would develop that artist. They would see something in someone, and they would have report cards. They would give them acting lessons, dancing lessons, singing lessons, and they would have a trained person that would be ready to be used into a film. And then they would get report cards. Famously, one of the report cards for Fred Astaire was can't sing, can't can't act, and can dance a little. Can dance a little, Fred Astaire, right? That was their report card. But they worked with him, they built him up, and next thing he's became a very, very famous, huge star, right? Did 9 films with just Ginger Rogers, and did a lot of other films as well through his whole career. Um, but they built a system that was very workable at that time. Now, there were a lot of people, like, for example, you had the Wizard of Oz wanted to use Shirley Temple for the Wizard of Oz, but she was not available because she was in another studio. Now, sometimes what they did was that they would lend out an actor, and they would pay, so they would all make money. So there was a lot of other behind the scenes deals that were going on with the studios. But for some reason, the Shirley Temple thing did not work out, and they had a Judy Garland, and I can't imagine anyone other than Judy Garland doing it. But who knows what would have turned out, right? But she was part of the studio system, and they just put her right in. So you see, they built a studio system. So this is what the mindset has to be shifted. It's like, yes, you're an artist, yes, you're a filmmaker, you're an actor, you're a writer, you're a musician, whatever the case may be. Um, you have to shift your mindset a little bit to add the business part of it, because you can control it. You can be the one that actually puts those people together. You may have the power, you may have something that you don't even know you have, but you have a drive that maybe people are really, that's infectious, and people want to then they gravitate towards you, and they want to work with you, and they want to help you build what the vision that you have. Get the vision, get the mindset, then start gathering the people and see who sticks. See who actually you see is like, wow, they really want to work hard. This person wants to show up, you know, and then you start the process of building that empire very, very slowly. You don't even have to call it an empire. I use that word because I read it here earlier, but you just a group of like, I would say realistically, if you had four people, 4 to 5 people that were committed fully and that each had their role and they knew what their role was and they understood the system and they helped you build a system, you can really do some amazing things. I guarantee it that you can do that. All right, friends. As always, it's always a pleasure talking to y'all. One of the things that I try is I try to inspire you to want to go out and do something extraordinary. I've told my story many times on my platforms and stuff. I grew up in the South Bronx, uh, very poor, was homeless for a little while, as a teenager, and really was lost until really I was about 24, 25 years old when I finally had opportunities to move out of the South Bronx and move into Manhattan, and I began my journey. Um, and I started very late in life, you know, but I had a drive to want to keep going, and I had an interest to just want to do something different, to do something unique, use my time on earth to help others and to create things. And that was my purpose. It is my purpose, and I didn't know at the time why, but I know now. And being on here with you and telling my story, and hearing the wonderful comments and that you make, even the negative ones that I appreciate, because at least they hung out for a few minutes. I still appreciate the interaction. And again, if anyone ever needs anything, you can always email me. My email is very simple. It's just my name, johnhenrysoto@gmail.com. And I'd be more than willing to help you. Thank you so much. I will see you all tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Central. Have a wonderful day out there. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We're all we got. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. God bless. And as always, peace.